welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Pittsburgh. Today is February 25th. I am Stephanie Pulowski, commissioned lay minister with this church. I am in my mid-40s. I have curly, brownish, graying hair, light skin. I'm wearing a brown sweater with black polka dots. With me today is our guest speaker, Joseph Hall. I'll give a much longer welcome and introduction later, but for now, he's the executive director of the Kelly Strayhorn Theater, and we're thrilled to have him with us today while Reverend Kate Walker is off. She will be back with us next week. You are welcome here. If you are watching now or in the future, you are welcome. If you're a longtime member or brand new, you are welcome here. We Unitarian Universalists are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We're a multi-faith religious community where all are welcome, diversity is celebrated, and questions are expected. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome. If this is your first time with us, we would love to be in touch with you. If you have not already done so and you're here in person, please go to our welcome desk in the atrium. If you're watching on YouTube, please visit our website. Just Google First Unitarian Pittsburgh and sign up for our weekly newsletter found at the bottom of the page. You're also invited to join us for social time on Zoom following this live worship. To get a Zoom link, please send an email to firstunitarianpittsburgh@gmail.com. If you're here in person, please join us downstairs for refreshments and snacks. I invite you now to take a deep breath. Arrive in body and spirit and picture yourself connected to all others who are watching today and in the future. We turn now to our chalice. I invite Ruby to come help me. The symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. If you have a chalice at home, we invite you to light it at this time. We light the chalice this morning in the name, we light this chalice this morning, the light of our creative spirits, the light of our wise souls, the light of our wondering and curious minds, light of love for this place, this people, this work. May the light of our chalice illuminate our hearts and the spaces between them in this sacred time of unfolding. May this flame burn bright in our hearts and minds as we worship together. Now please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing our opening hymn, hymn number 347, Gather the Spirit.
United.
If you turn to your order of service and join me in our collective reading of our principles. As Reverend Barbara Wells Ten Hove explains, the principles are not dogma or doctrine, but rather a guide for those of us who choose to join and participate in Unitarian Universalist religious communities. We covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, acceptance of one another, and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part, journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. Now, I would invite anyone who would like to see pictures for the Story for All, child or of any age, please come on up and join me up front. Now, if you can't see the pictures, the story is kind of a play on Little Red Riding Hood. So that gives you a hint of what the pictures are. It's called Use Your Imagination by Nicola O'Byrne. One day, Rabbit was feeling bored. I wish something would happen, he said. You see? There you go. You see Rabbit. What else do you see behind Rabbit? It's a big wolf shadow. Excuse me, said a voice. May I help? It was Wolf. Well, maybe, said Rabbit. I'm bored. Why don't we write a story, said Wolf. I am a librarian, you know. And librarians know a lot about stories. You don't look like a librarian, said Rabbit. What big ears you have. All the better for listening to stories with, my dear, said Wolf. And what big eyes you have, my dear. Or what big eyes you have, said Rabbit. All the better for reading with, my dear, said Wolf. I'm sure I've heard something like that before, said Rabbit. Never mind that, said Wolf. Let's get on with the story. But how do we start, asked Rabbit. You need to use your imagination. That means using words and pictures to create a story, explained Wolf. And of course, there's really only one way to start a story. How do we start a story? Once upon a time. But what is our story going to be about, asked Rabbit. Well, said Wolf, use your imagination. Space rockets, cried Rabbit. Big explosions and bananas. We need lots of bananas. Oh, I don't think so, said Wolf. What we need is a fairy tale, something to really sink your teeth into. And of course, all fairy tales need a bad guy. What about a mouse, asked Rabbit. I was thinking something bigger, said Wolf. An elephant, cried Rabbit. What about something medium-sized, said Wolf quickly. I know. What about you, said Rabbit. Now that's a good idea, said Wolf. What next, asked Rabbit. Well, of course we need a hero, said Wolf. Me, said Rabbit. What a great idea, said Wolf. But what will I wear, said Rabbit. Oh, it doesn't matter much, said Wolf. Use your imagination. A spacesuit, cried Rabbit, or a pirate hat, or what about a red cape? But where does the story happen, asked Rabbit. Use your imagination, said Wolf. That's a tricky one, said Rabbit. What do you think? I was thinking of somewhere tree-y, said Wolf. Oh, what about a forest? Squeaked Rabbit. Now that's a good idea, said Wolf. Rabbit felt very proud. We've got a bad guy, a hero, and a forest, he said. Is the story going to start soon? Oh, yes, said Wolf, grinning. The story starts right now. Really? I don't like this story at all, panted Rabbit as Wolf chased after him. Really? Snarled Wolf. Well, don't worry. We're nearly at the end. I don't think so, said Rabbit, suddenly stopping. I'm the hero, after all, and I'm going to use my imagination. And so, what do you think happens? Rabbit did. This isn't a good idea at all, said Wolf. Rabbit grinned. Well, don't worry, we're nearly at the end. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, might need some help opening this one. Oh, blast off. And he sent Wolf into space. Now that was a good idea, said Rabbit. Now we're going to sing you guys out. Please join me with, yes, it is. Thank you. Peace, salam, shalom. Every month, we share our generosity with a designated organization that shares our values. This month, it is the Afro-American Music Institute. All donations are shared 50-50 with this organization unless otherwise designated. Our religious community is made up of volunteers and staff creating and hosting a variety of programming. We rely on your financial support. In addition to the collection plate, you can donate by texting GIVE to 412-435-1050 and following the directions. Please check the end of the order of service for more ways to give. we hold each other in our hearts and minds with all our joys and all our sorrows. We remember those who are experiencing losses of various kinds and those facing health challenges. We are aware that many are faced with heightened difficulties presented by these times that continue to be challenging for us all. May those who suffer or mourn find peace. May those who hunger or thirst be quenched with nourishment and sated with the elixir of life. May those who have experienced violence find care and comfort and the healing that comes with time. May all of us find the loving kindness that is ours to share. May we open our hearts and minds to encircle with love and care all in our community and beyond. So may it be. Amen. Namaste, and blessed be. Please join me in a few moments of silence, personal meditation, and prayer. In the words of Peter Fredericks, why is this blank page staring back at me, mocking like an affliction and fraught with dread? How can it hold such sway and this simple emptiness? Might it instead be a gift, left on my doorstep overnight, waiting to be broken open with the dawn? Present, eager to emerge if only I had the sense to hold the paper over a candle flame, its lemon juice message appearing like magic, clear and true. Each new day is like this, pure air, devoid of density, but for the weight of our own invention. Birds do not worry the morning or fret the rising sun. They wait expectant until its rays kiss their downy necks, then stretching, they turn to face the day and sing. Please remain seated and join me in singing hymn 1015, I Know I Can, verses 1, 2, and 4.
Control.
It is so wonderful to welcome Joseph Hall to us. Start over. It is so wonderful to welcome Joseph Hall to be with us today. As I said earlier, he is the executive director of the Kelly Strayhorn Theater in East Liberty. Previously, as the deputy director of BAD, the Bronx Academy of Arts and Dance, Hall helped expand the theater's budget and staff, forging partnerships and raising its national profile as a BIPOC LGBTQIA+ institution. He co-curates TQ Live at Carnegie Museum of Art, serves on the National Performance Network's Partner Advisory Council, Office for Public Arts Advisory Committee, and Pearl Arts Board of Directors. Hall has been recognized through awards such as 40 Under 40, Excellence in the Arts, and City Paper's Pittsburgh's People of the Year in Performing Arts. Hall is the great-grandchild, son, and nephew of preachers in the Pentecostal tradition, one of the most imaginative spiritual practices of the 20th century. Thank you so much for joining us today, Joseph. Welcome.
Good morning. Yes, you said it back. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to Reverend Dr. Kate Walker and Chris Russ for graciously inviting me to join you this morning. And thank you to Ellen and Stephanie for setting the environment and preparing porous hearts and minds, allowing us to absorb and grow from our time together. As Stephanie said, I'm Joseph Hall, son of Alvin Wilson Hall, nephew of Herschel Bennett, and great-grandchild of James Thomas Wilson Sr. All of these family members served as pastors within the Evangelical Assembly of God tradition in Maryland and West Virginia. Speaking from this pulpit feels quite familiar to me, as it represents a connection to my lineage and a reclamation of the influences that have shaped my life. I like to say that growing up in the church was my first introduction to theater. In fact, today's invitation was prompted by Chris after hearing me speak prior to a show at Kelly Strayhorn. As its executive director, one of my priorities is that we welcome audiences with great warmth and enthusiasm, setting the stage for the performance that we are about to witness. My role and great pleasure in creating the welcome is to deliver an inspiring curtain speech on stage right before the performance that invites us all to call and respond, to stand up and shout, to be moved when we feel moved, unapologetically. It is to invite us to step into an energetic, liberatory space where your imagination, curiosity, and celebration is intertwined with and lifted by mine and your fellow audience members. Together, we extend above and beyond the corporeal boundaries of the theater, like a halo vibrating the sanctity of our unity. Our collective capacity to imagine allows us to reach these heights of transcendence. I hope we might transcend today. We'll see. When thinking about the theme of perseverance, I found myself at a loss initially. What can I say about perseverance in this current moment in our world when it's just not enough? When there is a Palestinian child without parents desperately searching for her next meal amidst the devastation of war in Gaza. An immigrant woman residing in Alabama grappling with obstacles to obtain reproductive health care. The firsthand trauma endured by a Russian dissident fighting for democracy. There is a prevalent belief that perseverance, similar to resilience, is an inherent characteristic of the oppressed. Oppressed individuals and communities are expected to consistently demonstrate perseverance in the face of discrimination and inequality. In the US, this expectation inadvertently perpetuates the damaging myth of the strong black man or the strong black woman, and ignores the systemic issues that contribute to our struggles. The Association of American Medical Colleges reported that 40% of first and second year medical students endorse the belief that Black people's skin is thicker than white people's. 40%. An analysis of 20 years of studies found that Black African American patients were 22% less likely than white patients to receive any pain medication. Black folks often experience undertreatment of pain, seemingly because of perceptions of our strength. Perhaps our ability to persevere, to be steadfast and resilient. In an interview with Solana Rice for The Forge, Mariam Kaba, an abolitionist, educator, and writer, was asked about how she maintains a clear vision for safety in her work of ending violence and dismantling the prison industrial complex. She explained, "I'm a big fan of art of all different kinds. Alice Walker told us years ago that oppression puts a ceiling on our brain. And I have changed that to oppression puts a ceiling on our imagination. And I believe that art can help lift that ceiling off our imagination." As writer Saidiya Hartman puts it, so much of the work of oppression is about policing the imagination. Imagination is the technology that so many of us use to envision and get to another side, despite the ceiling of oppression up above our heads. Imagination speaks to the agency of oppressed communities in creating alternative futures. When we imagine, we move beyond. On the 1st of this month, the city of Pittsburgh shared news about the launch of a new program called Freedom House EMT Training. This program is named in honor of the original Freedom House ambulance service, the first emergency medical service in the US to be staffed by paramedics with medical training beyond basic first aid. Founded in 1967 by Dr. Peter Saffer, Phil Holland, and Freedom House Enterprise founder James McCory Jr., it served predominantly Black Hill District and was staffed entirely by African Americans. In its first year of service, Freedom House responded to nearly 5,800 calls in its first year in the Hill. I find it hard to imagine that before this time, the police were responsible for transporting residents to the hospital without advanced medical care. And the response to emergencies in the Hill District by the predominantly white public police force was often slow. Where slow service to Black neighborhoods by the police had been a point of tension, the Freedom House paramedics had a response time of less than 10 minutes. I learned of Freedom House just about a year ago. Little embarrassing that I didn't know before, but perhaps some of you didn't. Right before the release of the WQED documentary. When I heard John Moon, one of the original paramedics, talk about his experience at Freedom House on a podcast, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride that it occurred right here in Pittsburgh, and with an all-Black paramedic team. Freedom House, an organization that had already employed great imagination when it introduced a mobile grocery store for Black neighborhoods, where trucks delivered fresh vegetables directly to people's homes. And then it partnered across cultures, across race, with Dr. Saffer, Mr. Holland, eventually medical director Dr. Nancy Carolyn, and an all-Black paramedic team. What imagination it took from all of them to trust each other, to see the vision, to create, to iterate, to know that more was possible on another side. They had to commit to getting there with each other through a shared imagination. Around 2 months after learning about Freedom House, I attended a screening in the Hill of WQED's Freedom House Ambulance the first responders. And during the Q&A, a well-meaning yet maybe distracted person asked Phil, John, and some of the founding paramedics, what would you have done differently to sustain your operations? This after learning from the film that the fall of Freedom House Ambulance Service followed years of disinvestment from the city of Pittsburgh Mayor Pete Flaherty, who cut its budget in half. And finally, in 1975, after benefiting from the proven results of a coalition of Black and white citizens who had the audacity to imagine and implement a better system that saved lives, the city began its own paramedic service, not only stripping Freedom House of the few resources that remained, but also eventually removing Black paramedics from the jobs they originated. By the 1990s, Pittsburgh's EMS program was 98% white. But where was their perseverance? I found the question absurd. That's absurd. So much of the work of oppression is about policing the imagination. And when imagination thrives and achieves its purpose, so much of the work of oppression is about removing ideas and the tools from implementation from their creators and claiming ownership over what has been imagined and then asking, why can't you do better? What if the city of Pittsburgh had reveled in the opportunity to become a co-conspirator, jumping headfirst into the universe of Freedom House, taking its lead to expand its operations all over the city, and in turn, expanding the influence of the Hill District as a kind of, let's say, urban renewal? As the Q&A for the film was coming to a close, I stood and asked, how would you like your legacy to be celebrated? This brings me back to a poem I included in the speech Chris heard me deliver at Kelly Strayhorn. It's called Won't You Celebrate With Me by Lucille Clifton. Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? I made it up, here on this bridge, between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Come, celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Lucille Clifton was a Black woman poet born in 1953 who grew up in Buffalo, New York. There are many stirring moments in this poem, and what resonates most clearly for me are the lines, "What I have shaped into a kind of life. I made it up. Every day something has tried to kill me and has failed." She made it up. Like molding clay in the palm of her hands, she formed herself. She imagined who she could become even when there were no role models or examples to follow. Her imagination took her to a place of self-actualization, both non-white and woman, despite difficulties, setbacks, or opposition that she faced every day. And don't you think we should celebrate with her? How many times have you made it up? What you may or may not have imagined is that I am a transracial adoptee raised by white parents. Before I was born, my parents adopted 4 white children while living in the Baltimore area, where they pastored a church. Though my family fluctuated between lower middle class and poor, my brothers, sisters, and I always had fresh outfits for the first day of school. We participated in extracurricular activities and were supported by an extended network of church and family members. By age 9, we moved to a white rural town in western New York, where I graduated high school as class president and attended a local Christian college. There, I welcomed my closeted, yet obviously queer identity to be willfully ignored. Consciously, I closeted myself as protection from my Christian peers. They were more comfortable pretending I wasn't gay than accepting my queerness, their manufactured reality making them unable to accept me as a whole person worthy of love. I was loved and felt love, but my prominent identities, my blackness, my queerness, they weren't, or at least weren't understood. As a child and adolescent, I often imagined an alternative reality, an alternative universe in which I was raised by Black parents in a Black community. The experiences I crafted in my universe were simple, if not mundane. Striding alongside my mom as she steered her shopping cart down a grocery store aisle. A day journey to the creek with my eccentric misfit friends, and closely resembling my older siblings. Some or parts of these experiences existed in my reality, but being the only Black body around left me uneasy. My unease occupied my childhood universe. Rather than envisioning invisible friends who would save the world with me, I dreamt of living with more care, solidarity, and self-acceptance of my Blackness, let alone my queerness. I sought an affirming culture that would help me come to selfhood. My only outlet for understanding myself and my experiences as a Black person was through art and entertainment. Gullah Gullah Island, Amen, Nina Simone, Lauryn Hill, the Arsenio Hall Show, It's a Different World, and The Wiz. In my middle teens, when no one was home, I would pump up a Best of Disco CD and dance down to Cheryl Lynn's To Be Real. What you think, aha. What you feel now. What you know, aha. To be real. Art offered me possibility models by connecting me to universes where Black folks are innovators, Imagineers, born out of spirit and necessity, constantly realizing the wholly impossible. Today, I surround myself with the business of imagination as the executive director of Kelly Strayhorn Theater in Pittsburgh's historically diverse neighborhood of East Liberty. At Kelly Strayhorn, Blackness and queerness are welcomed and loved identities, much like in the imagination of my adolescence. I am grateful for the technology of imagination that provides me the agency to create my future. I revel in creating our futures together so that we may extend above and beyond, transcend, and get to another side. Come, celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill us and has failed. Thank you.
Please rise in body and spirit and join me in singing when the Spirit says do. The words are printed in your order of service.
Do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit Spirit says march. You gotta march when the Spirit says march. When the Spirit says march, you gotta march. Oh Lord, you gotta march when the Spirit says march. You gotta work when the Spirit says work. You gotta work when the Spirit says work. When the Spirit says work, you gotta work. Oh Lord, you gotta work when the Spirit says work. You gotta love when the Spirit says love. You gotta love when the Spirit says love. When the Spirit says love, you gotta love. Oh Lord, you gotta love when the Spirit says love. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. When the Spirit says sing, you gotta sing. Oh Lord, you gotta sing when the Spirit says sing. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. You gotta do when the Spirit says do. When the Spirit says do, you gotta do. Oh Lord, you gotta do when the Spirit says do.
Please be seated. As we extinguish the chalice, please join me in reading the words printed in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. The benediction today is by Jim McGaw. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in mindless oblivion. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go without challenging yourself or others. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in utter ease and comfort. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace seeking justice. I mean go in peace committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. When I say go in peace, I mean go in the peace that is created when together we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. Go in peace.